Hello once again and welcome back to What If I Was Doctor Who's Showrunner. As per last time, it would be very advisable for you to watch from the beginning of the series, or with Season E, the previous series. Okay, got it? Good. Okay, last time we were here, I was talking about the introduction of my era, Katie McGrath.
It's McGrath.
McGrath. She's done a season and she's had her two companions, Erin, a Scottish Pict from 843 AD, who was played by Kelly MacDonald, who was introduced in episode 7 of the last series, and Phelan, a newly regenerated Time Lord who was a hermit on Gallifrey during the Time War, played by Owen Yeaman, who was introduced in episode 11. A lot of elements from season E will be carried over, of course, such as the titles, with the new exception of Katie being in them, the TARDIS, with it now being more lived in, and so on and so forth. But like last time, there is that important question to ask again. What is the pitch for the season? Well, if Season E was all about keeping the people in, this is going to be the season which will put more new ideas to the test. Even old characters are getting put into this. And, well, with the exception of 2, they won't come out the same way they used to be. So, without further ado, let's get back into this. By the way, since the last video came out, I was personally disappointed with the way I sort of handled the episodes in their sections. So, I shall be making it better formatted from here on out. Okay, good? Back to the video. The Doctor, Erin and Phelan are brought back to Earth when Brigadier Collins calls them in when the unit records an unexpected jump from a portal from one of their abandoned experiments. It has to take some time, but what they are doing could be the start of something worse entirely. So this whole episode will be designed around the team rebuilding the equipment for the portal to be reactivated, sort of like Utopia in that aspect. We would also see the return of Brigadier Collins, who would have been last seen in The Evil Within, with her getting shot by an unknown unit soldier, instigating the ending to the story when the team decided that they should find the person who went through the portal, but also try and find a way to save the Brigadier as well. The ending will see the team in a new location where the portal has taken them to, which is the same place, same time, but everything is of course not the same, as they have actually landed in an alternative universe as they are arrested, with them finding Time Agent Jade Morello with them as they are thrown in jail. Back in the original universe, the Brigadier has been taken off into a medical facility as the soldier who shot her reports into a woman in an office as they turn around to reveal they are the Master, played by Hannah Waddingham. The Doctor and a gang are trapped on an alternative Earth as forces in unit led by the Master attempt to open the portal to further advances. Will the Doctor and a gang be able to get back, or will they be stuck on Earth that isn't home? This episode will be the culmination of two big amounts of events on the two separate versions of Earth. The Doctor and her team would do a breakout from prison while they try to recharge their portal from their side, as they would have to make sure that their version of UNIT doesn't catch them doing it, so that it would become a weapon that could bring them over to the proper universe to invade. On the proper side of the universe, the Master has taken over UNIT, where she takes over the project to move the portal to her new office, as she's taken the TARDIS to leave as an ultimatum for the Doctor for when she returns. The ending to the episode results in the Doctor and the team finally getting the portal back together as they run through into the Master's office, where they land in front of the Master. However, the Doctor notices the Master as the Doctor orders her team to stand down as she discusses her way back to the TARDIS, which the Master accepts. It sets the Doctor back by a little bit, but she makes her way into the TARDIS not to deal with anything else with the Master. Inside, the Doctor prepares to take off before she asks Jade, who attempts to make his way out, before the Doctor convinces him for one trip, in which he wholeheartedly has to accept, leading the Doctor's team now to be Erin, Phelan and Jade Morello. Canada is known for being the cold shoulder of America, but it almost seems like there might be a reason why Quebec may be getting a bit more snow this year than it should be at this time of the year. The Doctor and her gang find out, but it may be the revenge of something that the Doctor's had a fight with for a long, long time. This one puts out the snowy landscape of Canada and puts it against an old enemy of the Doctor's, the Great Intelligent. More specifically, the Great Intelligent is the Yeti menace that they started off with in 1967. There will not be an appearance by Richard E. Grant because I feel like that part of their regime was done in the Matt Smith era. The Doctor's team would arrive as usual, as they'd have to split up from the TARDIS to go all their separate ways. The Doctor would be the one to find the Great Intelligence, Erin would discover some information from a damaged Yeti that never came back to the Great Intelligence, whilst Phelan would take a trip into town to defend the store from a Yeti that wants to destroy the people there, and Jade would work for getting the right people notified. By the end of the episode, the Doctor has circumvented the Great Intelligence with heat. Erin would have to destroy the Yeti, as the Great Intelligence would have to find Erin trying to make it go rogue, but is still fighting to keep itself in control as it destroys itself. Phelan saves the family from the Yeti by showing some weapon skills that he's learned from his training in the TARDIS with Erin, whilst Jade has to survive a Yeti blockage that the Great Intelligence put up to stop him from leaving to get to the right kind of people. All the team find their way back into the TARDIS as they meet up and exchange their day to each other. The Doctor hopes that the Great Intelligence has been vanquished as she and her companions leave, with Jade leaving without the Doctor noticing to stop another chance of joining for longer than he should. World War I. The Greatest War is still in progress. Many soldiers have lost their body parts in battle, but suddenly there's been reports of people regaining them with a new unknown substance. What is it, and is it too deadly and dangerous to keep its usage? As soon as the historical follows, where we hit towards the trenches of the First World War, we touch upon the aspect of the people how they've lost their body parts in the war, and how perhaps by alien intervention the soldiers could get back into the war. But what is it they're using? Well, it's a concentrated version of the Wurin larvae that keeps their structure to what has been created to keep the shape of the missing body part. The Doctor would convince Phelan to bring himself into the war, which wouldn't work because of him knowing about the Time War, but Erin would be able to convince him that he would be going undercover for her, as he accepts. During the day, Phelan gets scarred in battle, and the medics try to use the larvae, but it doesn't seem to work. Phelan scoops up the unused larvae as he takes it up to the TARDIS to be examined. For the ending of the story, the TARDIS examines the larvae as it starts to respond to some of the equipment as it sends out a wave to succumb soldiers, using itself as Phelan, Erin, and the Doctor stop the spread of the larvae as it dissipates from the soldiers. Phelan goes back to the group as he was with and gives them the courage to let them succeed forward from the war as he leaves in the TARDIS. Welcome to the box, a fun but thrilling ride into the places you've always wanted to go. So what happens when the Doctor, Phelan and Erin get involved, and who really is behind the box in general? This story is a very peculiar out there episode to the series. The plot is actually based on escape rooms and rooms that are based on dreams that are actually to hide the obvious of what the real villains are doing, which I will explain later. This smaller character piece which will also bring on a lot more character and progress the relationship between Erin and Phelan. It starts with the Doctor catching an advertisement of the box. She places the coordinates and gives the idea to try it out to Phelan and Erin as she's noticed their recent connection. The enter in as they find it to be a virtual dream for each of three of them as they drift into their fantasies. However, the Doctor is able to find a secret backdoor that leads them into the real world and finds out that the Nine Months are actually using people who enter into the box as batteries. With this new entailed information, the Doctor returns into the dream reality to discuss this revelation with her companions, but they seem to have confessed their love together and want to stay into the box forever, to escape the troubles with the real life they lead, which the Doctor convinces them otherwise by saying it's the life that they already lead is what brought them together in the first place. With that, they leave to save the remaining humans from becoming more powerful batteries. 1,000 years ago, someone made the deal with the mysterious and powerful Eve of War. 1,000 years later, Eve wants the Earth for the taking, as she wants to bring it to the most biggest conflicts it could ever see. And finally, we're back with another two-parter, and this one's going to be a bit more of an epic one, in the sense of scale and how the book takes itself from the beginning to the end. Right, so it begins with the Master, who returns from episode 2, who gets a report from her access of unit equipment that an unknown force is heading its way halfway across the galaxy to Earth. She knows that herself can't allow for this uncommon force to be dealt alone. She contacts the Doctor to convince her that this is a matter for both of them to handle as the TARDIS routes the call to allow itself to arrive in the Master's office. The Doctor discovers the truth as she leaves Erin and Phelan with the Master so that she can deal with Eve herself. The Master requests that they set up an Earth defense system that she has plans for. Erin agrees to help, but Phelan, knowing more about the Master, decides to help UNIT by using theirs. Meanwhile, the Doctor has a talk with Eve to try and find a way to settle this agreement and feud that doesn't directly involve peace. Eve declines as she begins to plan her full-scale war to the planet as the Doctor escapes, and this makes the end of the first episode. The second episode would begin with the Doctor trying to contact the Master, but Phelan intercepts the call instead. The Doctor provides him with the information it needs, which is that Eve is coming to Earth without taking the to peace. The call ends when the Doctor is now ravaged by the weapons that are being thrown by the TARDIS and in the TARDIS way, which entails a shortcut that leads to the unit, not the Master's office where Phelan's call was coming from. The Doctor and Phelan have an impromptu meeting with Brigadier Collins as they return to the Master, as she and Erin have finished their Earth defense system. Both parties switch on theirs as the unit stops working after a couple of minutes, which the Master had anticipated as she turns hers on, as the first attackers of the war approach the planet and cannot seem to attack it, leading to Eve's army falling before they can reach the planet itself. Eve, unsatisfied with her defeat, contacts the Doctor and the Master to finish her battle. As they get teleported without the help of Erin and Phelan, they're shown the planet Eve orders them to fight with her, which they persuade not to before the Master kills Eve as she figures she was the one to cause it in the first place. The Doctor berates the Master for outright killing her when they still had the chance before the Master threatens to blame it on the Doctor, as both of them go back to respective places. As the episode ends, the Doctor discovering Erin and Phelan have gotten engaged, while she and the Master were dealing with Eve on the planet. 1929, the whole world has come crashing down with the news of the banks of Wall Street closing, so Edward Johnson is going to hold the party to end all parties, celebrate, and it seems through a mysterious killing, the Doctor and her crew are stuck in the middle of a proper old investigation by an investigator that couldn't actually be involved. Could he? We reach our next historical. This one will obviously be based on how the fallout of the Wall Street crash affected the little people, as it seemed that the pleasures of the decade were coming to an end. Now, this one would obviously be sort of like the mystery nature of the Unicorn and the Wasp, but more American to represent the story. After learning their engagement, the Doctor and her bright spark ideas attempts them to give an engagement party that they will never forget, but they land in not only the wrong country but the wrong time as they hit America in 1929, as the Wall Street crash has hit, and Edward Johnson has created the party to celebrate the end of the world, as he calls it. It goes well until one of the guests is found murdered. An inspector is called in as they enter. The Doctor immediately recognises him as none other than the meddling monk, played by Michael Sheen. The Doctor sighs as the monk takes charge and begins his investigation. Phelan and Erin slip away as they try to find some clues themselves about this investigator getting in the way. They can't find anything as it seems that everything was cleaned up in such a good way that there's no evidence to plant anything or any clues to lead them to anything interesting, which means someone in the house wanted to clear it up so that the murder never happened. Erin and Phelan come downstairs as they and the Doctor are arrested by the monk, who smiles as time starts to subtly change around them as Edward Johnson becomes a murderer, due to his keeping this event secret and introducing a bloodlust. However, Erin sees the monk's handkerchief and notices the blood that allows the Doctor to arrest the monk on the crime he's just committed. They return to the party with the new information as they set history back on its path, as the team leave to have an engagement party of their own. A long time ago, the Rani made a discovery to revert the conversion process to the Cybermen. Unfortunately, there's been a complication that the Cybermen are still very much alive, just in a different way. So this is the sequel to the Season D story, Ex Machina, where the Rani, played by Orla Brady, in that story was trying to reverse the process of the Cybermen conversion for scientific reasons, and while I have to think that of course the Rani would try again and succeed, but also fail in a different way. Bit confused on what I mean? Well, let me explain. The Rani is now on a different planet as she's finished her experiments on the reversal of the cyber conversion process, as the humans have started to live back in normality as they should be. One of the humans still has his thoughts on bringing back the Cybermen as he starts to build his own to keep legacy going. The TARDIS arrives as it traces a signal which one of the humans accidentally sends out as the Doctor arrives alone as she finds the Rani and the human, who has rebuilt his own small army of Cybermen, which will have more of a homemade feel to them. The Rani explains that her experiment was able to be more successful as someone started giving her a planet and more supplies for more trials. The Cybermen kill their careers, they start to get all the humans that are in normality to be converted to Cybermen. With personal problems put aside, the Doctor and the Rani get rid of the Cybermen with only a few people getting killed along with the leader to make sure that neither she or anyone repeats the experiment again. The Doctor, out of pity, takes the remaining humans back to Earth and back to Unit so they can live proper lives without anything to hold them back. She returns to talk to the Rani, who's disappeared with the Doctor, who holds a destroyed Cyberman helmet in disappointment as she walks back to the TARDIS. An old friend of the Doctor's needs their help when it turns out that somebody is creating paintings of landscapes that they're using to imprison those who crossed him in his life. Right, so I should say that this old friend of the Doctor's is actually a companion from a different type of media than the TV series or Big Finish, notably the Titan comics, which I'm a big fan of. Anyways, the companion is Josie Day, a painter and companion to the 8th Doctor, who I thought would work for the episode as it deals with art. An unknown artist starts painting in his house. Where it may look as good as usual, he sees something is missing, which happens to be when a lightning storm hits his house and his painting starts to move. However, when an infuriating neighbour of his enters when he's painting, the neighbour himself gets imprisoned in the painting. Josie picks this up the next day as she contacts the doctor that allows for a simple reunion between the two. Josie explains to the artist and what he's done, and as she and the doctor race to the new location, as they find him in a new apartment with a lot of artwork around him in a room. The two interview the man as Josie takes a closer look at the artwork, and she notices that the people in the artwork slowly move over the minutes so that the interview is being taken place, revealing the artist's power, as he quickly sketches a prison for them to be both in, trapping them forever. He moves the sketch to the walls, the two move themselves to the end of the painting as they escape, using a pencil, which produces the same energy that the artist was using, as the Doctor and Josie take him back to the TARDIS as they extract the power from him, and Josie gets the energy back into her body instead of allowing the Doctor to do so. Josie brings back everybody by dispersing it back into the paintings and allowing them to escape. The artist is arrested, and Josie thanks the Doctor, who reminds herself to come back to Erin and Phelan, as she had forgotten about them lately, as she rushes back into the TARDIS and leaves to get her team back together. Something ancient gets tracked by the TARDIS. It turns out it's from Balthazar, an old enemy who explains that the ancient thing is actually an object that he'd left, and it could explode at any time. The Doctor and her crew have to find it before it explodes, or anybody else who tries to steal his power. From digging up the Titan comics to the animated stories now, this story sees us return with Balthazar, the Scourge of the Galaxy from the Infinite Quest, played by Anthony Head, who was locked up. With this story, I also wanted to bring him back and close up something of his character, but also it would lead into sort of the finale, which I won't reveal until the moment is right. Now, Erin and Phelan are planning for their wedding as they want to tell the Doctor, as they try to before something gets tracked up by the TARDIS, as it turns out to be an ancient object. The Doctor finds out his previous owner, who is Balthazar, which makes the three of them get themselves into Volak Nock, the prison that he's situated at the moment. He gives them the information about the object, saying that it was a weapon that could essentially create a black hole, which the Doctor and Phelan start to fear, as Erin finds out it's a weapon that was almost used by the Time Lords in the Time War when times got tough. The team use the TARDIS as they travel to the planet that Balthazar had told them about when he left it, Calcassar, as they go to where many of Tribe have failed to achieve the same goal. The team reach the weapon as Phelan fetches it himself, as he personally tries to destroy it for how much it caused his race to commit genocide before thinking that destroying it could be what could set it off, as he carries it back to the TARDIS with the three of them heading back as the Doctor tests it out to find out it was actually a dud when nothing occurs. They return to Balthazar as they discover the truth for the hunt of the weapon, as it was all a ruse to distract the team, which in the event of someone selling the rights to planet Earth to someone else. Phelan orders the names as Balthazar blurts out that the Master is selling off the Earth, the Raxacor-Praetorians, or for a shorter name, the Slovene. After dealing with the object in the previous episode, the Doctor and her crew have to race back to Earth to stop it being signed over by an alien race for them to occupy or take over. Will they be able to stop it, or will the world have a new owner in its reign? Last episode had given us the premise, before the Master continued her change from her last incarnation, was playing them the whole time to surrender the Earth and would be selling it off to the Slovene. But is that all that happens? Well, let's take a look and find out. So the first episode starts with the team racing towards Earth to get to the meeting point before it's all over, but the Masters place her Earth defense system on as the TARDIS scrapes through some marks on its exterior shell, hoping to avoid the confrontation that could happen to the three of them if they went to the Master first. They arrive in unit as they go to talk to Brigadier Collins to explain the dealings with what happened so far, and what will happen if unit doesn't stop the dealing, which the Brigadier tries to do before being knocked out by two unit soldiers as they walking after the Doctor and her team exit. They find the TARDIS to have disappeared but not dematerialized, which Erin herself decides to find as it allowed the Doctor and Phelan to have more of a chance against the Master. As the two of them decide to leave, Brigadier Collins asks for Phelan's help as he stays behind, allowing the Doctor to leave to deal with the Master alone. Erin finds the TARDIS in an abandoned warehouse of many unit soldiers and Brigadier Collins tied up as they are surrounded by corpses of the same soldiers, which turn out to be Slovene, as they try to fight them before failing and getting tied up herself. Phelan tries to help the fake Brigadier, as it turns out he's playing along, as the fake Brigadier unmasks herself to be a Slovene, as the episode leaves us on a cliffhanger of the Doctor bursting into the office of the signing, as she's too late to stop it as the episode ends. The next episode begins as the Doctor is too late to stop signing of the Master, returning for Mary Daggett, as the Master explains that what they're signing is not a deal over the ownership of Earth, but is more of an order for the Doctor to be shunted off into a pocket dimension as a personal punishment of the Master, as Mary signs it to show that someone that the Doctor had fought lately had been punished unjustly by the Doctor's actions. With this final agreement complete, Mary orders her army to stand down, so wishes the Doctor goodbye. She and her acquired army disappear as the Master closes the door to not let anyone interrupt them. The Doctor walks back to the unit, everybody back where they should be. Erin and Phelan walk to the low-hanging Doctor. They ask what's wrong, but she doesn't answer them, as she decides to help them with their wedding. As we cut to a fortnight later, when it happens to Erin and Phelan, now to be known as Erin and Phelan Matthews, as the Doctor gives them both wedding presents such as keys to the TARDIS, as she says goodbye before she leaves them. She walks back to the Master's office, where she tells her about the wedding before asking her one simple question: what would the Master have done if the Doctor didn't agree? Which the Master explains that everything horrible that the Doctor could think of would happen to the Earth. The Doctor smiles to herself, knowing this isn't the end, as she shoved through a portal created by the machine from the first episode of the series into a pocket dimension, where she falls to the floor and looks upon the town that is in front of her eyes as the portal closes, leaving her there forever. It's Christmas, and the Doctor's had a peaceful time so far in the pocket dimension. However, once a man named Aaron Middleton comes to visit, he allows the world to be turned into a game of action in weird directions, as it seems like somebody else may have taken over. Anyways, after that ending, we should follow up for a Christmas special. Now, this was actually one I based on a picture I had seen of Katie McGrath in a Christmas jumper for a film, which I think was a film that had to do with the company Hallmark and a bunch of films, for a thought of a story that could contain the current story of the Doctor's current predicament. And well, but why don't I just tell you instead? So the Doctor has resided herself into a cottage at the edge of this make-believe town as she stays in to celebrate Christmas. However, a man named Aaron Middleton needs her help as he knocks on the Doctor's door. The Doctor invites him in as he explains that he just woke up with all this information downloaded into his brain, and he knew that he had to come to her to deal with this problem. She, trying to calm him down, takes his hand as the two of them allow this world to be turned into something else as she falls asleep in her chair. As she and Aaron wake up as husband and wife, as she's planning for what she hopes is the best Christmas ever, as Aaron tries to hide the fact that he has actually got everything she wants. So he has to go and get everything without her noticing. But as she walks in her happiness around the cottage, the real version of the Doctor, through a mirror, tries to convince to let everything return to normal, as the other version smashes all the mirrors in the house to keep the connection strong. However, Aaron starts to get flashes of the original encounter that he had with the aliens that downloaded all of the info as he rushes home to with the presents. So as he tries to explain to her, who's gone mad, wanting him to stay in the fake reality, as he finds a present that turns out to be the object powering the memories as he smashes it, reverting everything back to normal. The Doctor decided to keep Aaron over Christmas as she helped him with his predicament, as the episode ends with her explaining to him who she really is. And with that, we have our new companion, Aaron Middleton, played by Tom Meissen, who I will explain about more when we get to the next season. Thank you to all those lovely people for enjoying it. This season was a bit harder to write following the last, but I hope I made it to those who didn't take a liking to the previous season. Before I go, I just want to thank the following people. Matt for creating the series and thankfully keeping up with it as you've saved this project a couple of times. Robert for pursuing his version, which really helped me when I was thinking of mine. For Jean for the thumbnail and just helping to keep me on through some troublesome times during this. YouTuber Ben Walsh for the amazing comment he left on the last one, which really honestly changed the whole companion arc for Aaron and Phelan, and your great advice in general. And everybody else who stuck it through, thank you. Now, of course, I'll see you soon for another video, and I'll see you in April for the next step on the journey.